in progress. And then we'll let people come in as we go. So Ernesto, maybe you can tell me, what can you see on the screen? Just you and I?
Give me just one moment.
Okay.
Yep, just you and I, and of course the screen that you pulled up,
Okay, so
the Zoom login
where it
screen,
says
right?
Zoom long. Okay, so I want to get that out of there.
Day one recap.
All right, there we go. Okay. So I want to welcome anyone out there online that's listening in. We've just starting. It's 12 noon, and I'm going to recap a little bit about what we talked about yesterday, and then move into day 2's agenda. So I've got to let a couple people in here. So while I'm letting everybody in, get yourself centered, turn off your phones, and get ready to take notes. If you've got your notebook, if anyone needs to get, if for any reason someone did not get their workbooks or secret content, please text me in the chat or text in the Facebook group community, and we'll get those out to you. So welcome to day 2. Okay, so I'm just going to recap as we get started a little bit about what we talked about yesterday. Yesterday, we went through the overview of the 7 steps to mastery, and we talked a lot about why mastery is important, mastery of yourself, and kind of what it is. So the first thing we established is that when we're talking about sales mastery, mastery of yourself is what we're talking about, and your soul's awareness. So we discussed the fact that all of us have a soul, we're sitting in a body, and we have access to an intellect. And when we learn how to use our intellect to serve us and to create, and to live out the Dharma, our purpose, our reason for being, we experience a lot of freedom and fulfillment. But it's a road less traveled. Not everyone travels the road of mastery. And we talked a little bit about the choice to have mastery allows you to be at peace and really enjoy life in a much fuller way, because you understand yourself and you begin to understand your alignment, your oneness with your creator, by really traveling through the 7 levels of awareness. We talked about animal consciousness, that, that's kind of that's a state when you are in reaction mode, and it's the fight or flight response. We talked about mass consciousness, when we play, monkey see, monkey do. We observe others around us and follow the masses. And then what happens is, as your awareness increases, you have these aspirations for more. You maybe don't want to do what everybody else is doing, and you have some big hopes and dreams that you go after. And then you really start to believe, understand that you're just like a snowflake or a blade of grass. You're a unique, once in a lifetime individual, and you want to start expressing your individuality. And then as you realize that in order to do that, you're going to have to develop some habits. You do what Will Smith calls self-love, which is you apply self-discipline. So you give yourself an order and you follow it. And then in doing so, you grow through the experiences that you have, and then you develop a mastery over a skill or, your craft. And then, as you continue to grow and experience new things or want to grow and expand beyond your current level of awareness, you keep going through this cycle. And when you have a conscious awareness of what the cycle is, you can go through the cycle a lot faster and spiral and ascend a lot faster. So masters live above the line. They stand in their own power. They understand that it's an infinite game. We talked about that you have really two choices in life. You can either make a living or design a life. And masters choose to design their life and be at the cause of it as opposed to the effect. The other thing we talked about is that as a soul, you need an environment to unfold in. And so where you're working and what you're doing and the environment you're in really plays a big role on whether your soul unfolds or not. So you choose your environment and who you hang out with carefully because you want to get yourself in a place, even in your career. In our company, we believe that you've got to love what you do and do what you love. And your environment matters. In today's corporate arena, you get into, different businesses. If you choose the business, that you're going into and the company that you're going into and choose the culture consciously, you can ensure that you're going to get yourself in an environment where you're going to be able to unfold. And if your employers know it's an infinite game and they're not trying to do the get rich quick scheme, especially in sales, because yesterday we talked about sales is really an investment, then you'll find yourself in a right place where you can grow, and you really want to choose your career and the environment and the company that you work with carefully. We talked yesterday about there's only 4 reasons that you get stuck. One is lack of desire. And because if you don't have order in your mind and a vision on where you're going to go, you're basically, you're going to be lost. So that could keep you stuck right where you are. And if you don't have any new desires and new goals and new visions, you've gone as far as you're going to go. We talked about the fact that the other thing that holds you back is disempowering beliefs, perceptions, and assumptions. And these are all habitual ways of thinking. We talked about belief is nothing more than an idea you accepted to be true. The perception is your interpretation of what, the way you see the world, or an assumption is really not factual. It's just something you assume to be true without any facts. And those things can hold you back, especially when they're emotionally charged. These were all things we talked about that reside in the subconscious mind. The third one was self-image not being in alignment with your new desire. So your self-image is on one channel and your desires on another. And if those two don't match up, you're not going to produce or create something new. And then the fourth and last problem is if you don't have order in your sales presentation, you could have a problem because you're not, order gets orders. And so when your sales presentation is in alignment, and you're confident, you understand what you're selling, how it impacts people buy based upon how it makes them feel, and they justify based upon logic. So if you're just selling the product and the widgets and you're not really tapping into the emotional motivation of the customer and how it's going to make them feel, you can miss out and you can have a problem. So those would be really only the 4 reasons we ever get stuck or we don't continually expand our awareness. And lastly, we talked about beliefs driving actions and actions driving outcomes. So the whole key is that the subconscious mind is running 96% of the show. It runs by law. We're going to talk about law today and if in anything, any of those, all 4 of those things, desire, beliefs, disempowering beliefs, perceptions, assumptions, self-image, and your confidence in your sales presentation, that's all in the subconscious programming. And if that stuff, if there's no order there, you get stuck. So last night I said that we're going to hop on here and talk about, I gave you homework. I said, look at one area of your life or in your career and find tell me what the dream is, what your dream is for that area, what the plan is that you can start doing, some sort of a plan forward, and a daily discipline that you can adopt. So I'm going to stop here at this point and see if there's any questions from anybody from yesterday. So Ernesto, I know you weren't there. Ken, how'd you do yesterday? Did you come up with any daily discipline thing that you could think of?
Well, I kind of put for my dream, or one of my dreams, is to be the top salesperson in my organization with strong partnerships with my national accounts.
Okay, wonderful.
And my plan is to have consistent communication to establish and build relationships with key contacts.
Excellent, excellent. Okay. And so what's one daily discipline that you can do for that communication moving forward? One small act that can compound over time?
Well, it's just to make sure that I'm checking the last time I communicated and make sure I stay on a regular schedule. So that daily activity of making sure that I don't let too much time lapse in between communication with those key contacts.
Okay, great. So maybe it's even something that after you complete each sales call, you put a invite or a thing on your calendar or something that rings the bell. So that morning, and then that morning you check that list and you're on top of it, right?
Right.
If that works, something like that.
Yep.
That's easy to do, easy not to do.
Right.
But it compounds over time. Okay, what about you, Chelsea? Did you have any insights from yesterday's homework?
Yeah, I feel like the majority of the discipline portion of sales is mostly about calling, prospecting, and following up. Is that true? I guess I do have a question.
Okay, yeah. That's a constant prospecting, follow up, and closing, prospecting, follow up, and closing. And you're constantly filling the funnel, and you've got to keep it circulating, right? So, and the more the higher quality your sales presentation goes up, and the more quantity of people that you bring into the funnel, that's what gets the engine moving. That's what creates the momentum.
Cool. Yeah, my dream was kind of more basic, I guess.
Okay.
I heard that I wanted to prove that I can build meaningful relationships. And my plan for that is to put myself in the room. I'm going to trade shows for this company. I'm going to be in the networking space, and I need to challenge myself to initiate conversations and be in the space so that I can have those opportunities at all.
Great.
And I think,
up, right?
Yeah, just to show up and prove that I can do it, because right now I don't really feel like I can do it.
Yeah.
But my discipline of things that I can do every day to help are things like daily affirmations or mantras of building confidence and proving to myself that I am engaging and personable and adaptable to these situations and these conversations, so that I'm not afraid.
Good. Yeah. And so what you might want to do is just keep a record of how many conversations you have on a daily basis. And then look at it, like reflect on it at the end of the day, like how many calls did I have? Did I hesitate? Did I not get out? And how soon, how early in the morning, maybe you did it, and just start recording that. And when your attention goes there, your energy flows, like where your attention goes. So cool. Ed, what about you? Any insights you got from last night's exercise?
Well, I like your point about making a did list instead of a to-do list.
Yeah.
I think that was absolutely phenomenal. So, yeah, I was wanting to look at the 3 to 5 year of being debt free.
Okay.
I mean, because by the end that we're just planning on that. But right now, the only thing I have is the house. So I'm looking at a 3 to 5 year plan for that, and then just the plan is to follow some financial planning. And then my daily discipline is just read more positive input stuff.
Positive books and stuff. Okay, great.
Yeah, such as your book and stuff like that. So.
Awesome. So Yeah, so Ernesto, do you have any questions based upon what we were talking about yesterday? Oh, I can't hear you. Can you unmute?
I'm just taking it all in right now, Rhonda, just getting caught up with everyone else's input and
All right, good.
homework.
All right, awesome. So what we're going to talk about today is how to align with universal law. Now, why would that be important? Because there's really two things in mastery that you're going to need. One is order, and the second one is faith. And so order is, if you think about the mind, yesterday we talked about, okay, so we're a soul, you know, we popped into the body, we had to figure out what was going on, and we have access to this intellect, this mind, but it's invisible. And yesterday I gave you a picture. I'm going to put the picture back up on the screen so we have an image of the mind. But what you have to understand is mind is movement, right? So it's always moving. And so order, you have to, if you're using mind, you have access to that mind to create, right? So in your conscious mind with your soul, you get choices, you have the freedom of choice, and you are born to give your gift to the world and create things while you're here, because you're made in the image of your creator, right? So you have this mind, and anything you impress on it will come back to you. But the order in the mind, if you understand how the mind works, which is by universal law, and you get aligned with the order of that universal law, things are going to start flowing because you're working with nature as opposed to opposing it. But if you're going against the law, that's when you get stuck and you get held back because you're not doing, kind of following nature. So that's why we're going to talk about law. And then faith is the other component of, is a component of law. It's how things are manifested through expectation. So we start building faith by gratitude. And then there's ways that we'll talk about later this week on how you can build some of the new beliefs. If one of your if you ever felt that you're stuck because you have a disempowering belief, I'm going to show you how you can do that. But today we're going to focus on order and the mind and the laws, because if you understand how the laws work for the mind and you apply it to selling, your sales process, your funnel, your goals, your dreams for your sales career and things like that, and you get in alignment with it, you're going to now have universal intelligence helping you because you're doing things kind of in line with what the whole overall goal is. And what's that? More life. So you want to, there's things like leaving people with an impression of increase, growing businesses, your business revenues growing. It's all increase, increase, increase. And that's what Source wants to do. And so you're an instrument for that increase. So if you understand these metaphysical laws, it's just how it rolls. It's how the universal mind works. And if you get in alignment with it, you understand how it works, and you use the law to guide you on your sales processes, no matter what changes with external things in the physical world, that's not going to affect, because you're still going to have the power to create, because you're going to be in alignment with law. Does that make sense? Get the order is important, right? Because if you're moving somewhere, it's like getting in a car. You have to tell the subconscious mind where it's going. You wouldn't send a bunch of alphabet letters on a piece of paper to the subconscious mind, throw it over there and expect to get your dreams to come true if it's not clear, right? So you've got to have order in your mind. A lot of times what happens is people have, today they want to be a carrot and tomorrow they want to be a radish, and they're all over the place. And so there's no, it's constant confusion. And we said that law and nature grows over time. We talked yesterday about plant, cultivate, and harvest. And so you got to use time, which is the compounding effect. So if you start growing something and you're pulling up the roots and then changing tomorrow and putting something down in, and you don't let the thing grow, it's kind of hard. I mean, how are you going to manifest what you want if you're constantly changing your mind and you have no order on where you're going and what you want to do? So that's why I wrote this book, because I mean, when I got it, I was like, man, everybody's got to understand this. So let's go into the universal laws and how they apply to selling and what the universal laws are. And then I'm going to give you some work that'll be fun for tonight to use to get you another breakthrough. So let me see here. All right. So day 2. Sorry. Universal laws. What I'm talking about in here, if you do have a copy of the book, there's a reference chapter, which is chapter 3, that has all this information in it, in much, in deep detail, if you want to read and study it some more after today. And that's available on Amazon. So if you think about life is not linear, and sales is not linear either. A lot of people when they first get into sales, they could get, have you ever had, even for yourself, if you've been in sales, have you ever thought about something on a linear basis where you're working on one sale deal and you just get so fixated on it that, you really want it to come in. And then when it's not moving or it's not doing something, you could get stuck. Well, the issue is that everything in life works on a curve. And what I mean by that is that, it's not a linear trade exchange. There's the law of compounding. Just like your interest, if you put interest in a bank and it's going to compound over time, the power of compounding interest is the same as the compounding of your habits, your positive habits, and what you do in life. And so nothing's linear. It's investment, not trade. And so yesterday we talked about what is the mind that we have this, so we're a soul, we have access to a mind. What is it? What's it look like? Because it's invisible, we can't see it. So there was a guy named Thurman Fleet in the 1960s. He came up with the concept theory, and he said, the problem, we're trying to fix medicine and heal people, but we're not dealing at the cause. The cause is the mind. And I need a picture so that I could explain to people what the mind is in some form. And he came up with, the infinite intelligence or whatever, kind of gave him this picture, and this picture came out. But we talked a little bit about this yesterday, but you're a soul and you have a conscious mind. So if you look at this top circle at the top, it's the conscious mind, and you have the power of choice. You're the only, in the Genesis Bible, it says, I've given divinity, you have divinity over all on earth or whatever. So the animals and everything else don't have what we have. We have this power of choice where we can choose freely. And so that choice occurs in our conscious mind. So we can choose what we think about. And then anything we decide to think about, that we form a picture in our mind of something. So let's say, your dream, Ken, is that you're at the national sales meeting, getting awards for being the top salesperson in your company or whatever. So that's the picture you put in, you figure out who that guy is, how he walks, talks, you get that clear in your mind, and you really get emotionally involved with that idea. Well, what happens is it gets impressed on the subconscious mind. So think of infinite intelligence. This subconscious mind is totally deducted, totally deductive. So it can't refuse anything you think. So it has to take whatever you let in there, whatever you get emotionally involved, whether it's negative or positive, it goes in and it gives it right back to you. It's like a radio transmission. If you put it on 96.2, it's going to give you 96.2 back. So whatever you're consciously deciding, from your frequency of what you get this picture in, it's sending that onto universal mind and it comes back. So habits, beliefs are things that you repeatedly heard over time. When you're a little baby, you get told your name, like your name was Chelsea, right? So Chelsea, your mom had to call you Chelsea probably 200 times. And then all of a sudden, you realized, oh, she's talking to me. And the repetition is what gets it in there. So a lot of the stuff, that we have that's habitual. 96% of all of our behavior is being run by this subconscious mind. And this subconscious mind operates by universal law. So if you are aware of how to use this to be your success mechanism instead of your failure mechanism, and you align with it, you're going to experience, you know, a lot of fulfillment in your life. You're going to be able to manifest things in your life, because this part, the subconscious mind, as we said yesterday, and all those things that were down in the subconscious mind, it's driving your actions, and your actions are driving your outcomes. So why does that matter? So there was a book over here in your workbook that you have called The Slight Edge. And if you're looking for something good, like Ed, you said you're looking for good books to read, highly recommend that's one to read. That's one on the top of my book list that I really endorse. It's a great book. But he says in there that, you know, philosophy, the slight edge of the 5%, the people that walk around, you know, he did a lot of study with Jim Rohn, starts with the philosophy. What is it that you believe? Because the beliefs that are here, down here in your subconscious mind, are causing the actions of your body, and that those actions are producing your results. A lot of the stuff that's in your subconscious mind, your attitude matters. So, you know, the way that you perception, you know, your job. Do you love your job? So if you perceive your job as a real drag, probably not going to get a lot of good, you know, results out of it. So we always have to do an attitude check. And that plays into the law of vibration, because the philosophy, our beliefs, and our attitude, and our perceptions and our assumptions are all driving the actions. So he said there's two things that you've got to look and ask yourself, and this plays into polarity. Are you taking full responsibility? Masters take full responsibility for themselves and their discipline, so they own it. The other 95% will come up with an excuse or blame, or just by neglect will kind of fall off and choose something different. So responsibility drives them, and values drive the 5%. And it's mundane. These little habits that you initially start doing doesn't look like anything happens for a while, but then all of a sudden over time leads to your success. But over time, neglect or lack of those habits, those habits can lead to your failure. And that, you know, goes for all areas of your life. So it's really important that if you want to become a master, that you take responsibility and you get clear on your purpose. And if that purpose drives you with your responsibility, you'll be able to stay on that master curve. But life is always happening on a curve, because it's always about growth and compounding. And so in the beginning, it might be uncomfortable to start a new habit. Like Chelsea, you're new in your job. So yeah, it's going to be uncomfortable, but embrace the uncomfort, because if you develop those habits right now of calling and contacting clients, and, you know, prospecting, and then following up, and then closing sales, and then continuing on that funnel, and you just start getting in habit, even though it might be uncomfortable to talk to all those people right now, after a while, 30 days in, you're just so used to doing it, it's not uncomfortable anymore. I mean, that's the beauty of a habit. It becomes automatic. Make sense? Everybody still with me? Okay. All right. So what are the laws, and what do they mean, and how can we apply them to selling? So the first law is, you know, and you can read quantum physics to confirm this, the law of perpetual transmutation, which says energy is, but it's always transferring form, right? So it moves. You're a ball of energy, and you move. I mean, you know, even, you know, people, you know, when someone's gone, after, you know, their body's just, you know, a shell laying there, the energy has left the body. Like Albert Einstein's brain is in New Jersey, but his body, you know, his soul is gone, because the energy from that soul has left the body. And so perpetual transmutation means, again, that energy is always moving, changing in and out of form. And when you create something on the physical plane, which is we're all born creators. So we have the ability to think in thinking substance, whatever we want, and we become what we think about, because we get a picture, we impress it onto the subconscious mind, and then it comes back to us. So things are always moving in and out of form. If you look at energy like take an ice cube, is frozen, it's solid. You melt it, it turns into water. Then the water can go up into steam. That's perpetual transmutation. If an animal, let's say the deer comes and eats the radish or something out of the garden, and then he dumps it goes through his body and goes and falls on the ground on top of a seed of a oak tree or something, and then that oak tree gets nourishment from that and the energy moves. So perpetual transformation is this constant movement of energy, and you have the ability to affect that by what you think about and concentrate those pictures that you get in your mind. So for sales, the question is, like, when you go into a call, do you see the sale closing? Do you see the person signing the deal? What are you thinking about when you go in there? Are you thinking about, oh my gosh, is he going to shake my hand? It's perpetual transmutation. So what you think about matters. The law of vibration in selling is all about your attitude. So everything in life happens on a frequency, just like that radio conversation we were just talking about. So whether you realize it or not, people are picking up what you're putting down, even if you don't say a word. In fact, in selling, 80% of the communication is nonverbal. And so you got to understand you're vibrating, and how you show up, people are picking up what you're putting down, even if you're not saying it. So what causes the vibration? What you're thinking about either makes you feel good or bad, right? So you can use the law of vibration in your emotional guidance system to pick up things in a sales conversation. Like if you're totally present in a sales conversation with someone, you can tell if somebody's having a bad day. You can tell if somebody's like the life of the party, because what happens, you're in a party, everybody gravitates towards somebody because their energy is really high. So we all speak the law of vibration. And so when you're selling, if you understand that, you start examining, doing self-reflection of what is my attitude towards my product? What's my attitude towards my company? Do I really understand the value, what great value I can provide and create for customers? And am I enthusiastic when I go talk to customers? Do customers pick up that, oh my gosh, he really wants to talk to me, this must be important, or are they picking up that you're nervous, or maybe you're unsure of whether your product's the right fit for them, or you being curious and present with them? All that attitude stuff is impacted with the law of vibration. So if you get yourself in a really good attitude, in fact, when in the beginning of a sales process, that opening line and the way you show up is, if you can make a composite with somebody right away if that vibration and that attitude's real high. So law of vibration, just means whatever frequency you're putting out, you're going to attract that back to you, because the law of attraction is a secondary law of the law of vibration. Okay, cause and effect. This is where the action Jackson comes in. Like, okay, we can think all day, pictures of things that can make us feel good, but if we don't go take action, we can't receive it back. So you have to take action. That's why yesterday in the homework, it was like, what's the dream? What's the plan, the action that you can take, and then the discipline, because the action is all about the law of cause and effect. So action, cause and effect is like the boomerang law. Whatever you give to others, you get back. So when you go on a sales call, it's not really, we talked yesterday, selling is like an investment. So whatever you're putting back out in terms of how you create value for your customers, or you give them appreciation or acknowledgement, or there's things that are not related to the product that are totally related to you and that's why sales masters that are really good at what they do will generate a lot of money, because they put out a lot of value. So they're big into giving, and they understand that if they're giving and providing service, they may not get it back directly from the person they gave the service to, but by law, it has to come back to you, because that's just the way law goes. Whatever you, in nature, with sowing and reaping, when you sow a seed, for example, you always get an abundance back. By law, you're always going to get a lot more back than what you put out. So if you get that in selling, and everywhere you go, you're leaving people with an impression of increase, it's just with high service and creating value, and how can I help you? And maybe you get a referral out of it, or who knows how. You don't have to worry about where it's going to come from. If you're putting the effort in and you're giving and you're creating value in the marketplace, it has to come back to you, because that's law. And then there's the law of polarity. So the law of polarity states that everything in the universe has duality. So there's a right and a left, there's an up and a down, there's a forward and a backward, and there's a good and a bad to everything. And the thing is, in sales, are you always looking for the good? So, right now we're in a state of, you could have any kind of situation. You could say that inflation's up. You can look for, what's the good in what's going on right now. Well, the law of rhythm said for me, the law of rhythm is going to tell, that's the next one, going to tell you if you're having a really contracting economy right now, that means everything rhythm in seasons, it means that there's going to be a really big expanding economy coming after this contraction. So what are you doing now to kind of prepare for the big boom that's going to come later? But polarity, there's good and bad to everything. So the question is, where does your focus go? Does your focus go to find the good? Are you a good finder? Do you look for the good qualities in your customers and recognize them and acknowledge them? Or do you look for the good in your company? Do you look for the good in your product, even if it's missing something? Are you focused on the things that it does well, or the things that it doesn't do? And that can make a huge difference in your outcomes, because whatever you focus on grows. The law of rhythm is the law of seasons. If there was any time to understand the law of rhythm right now, I'm going to tell you, like in all these business circles and these calls that I've been on, everyone's experiencing a really tough time right now, because it's a contracting economy. The economy's been contracting since January. And so what do you do in a contraction economy? You got to think about the polarity. You got to say, okay, well, this as much as if it's contracting this much, there's going to be another big swing and it's going to expand this much. So am I doing things now to, prepare for the infrastructure that I need, or, do things with my finances so that I'll have ability to do, things when it comes up. As far as selling goes, this is the time when I want to really maybe understand my customers, have those conversations, Chelsea, like you were saying, like get out there, talk to as many people and really understand what the market's doing, what the needs are, and then come back and give my company information on how we can create more value and create more deeper, relationships with these customers, especially Ken, like you in a national account thing. Like, how can you really understand, use this time to really get deep with building the relationships, at all different levels of really, the empathy and understanding of what's going on, what they need, and then how you can create value from there in this time when, we might be in a constriction thing, and be confident knowing that, the law of rhythm. So, if it's contracting this much, it's going to expand, and you're getting ready for that. And then the law of relativity, this is the thing where, you look at comparison, and sometimes people use the law of relativity against themselves instead of for themselves. So the way you get in alignment with relativity is you could say everything is relative until it's compared to something. And when I, wrote about in my book, is for me, it's like, I don't like to compare myself to anyone else other than me. Because if I can compare myself to me and say, hey, last year you were only here, but look at how you've grown, then I can make myself feel good And that's the intent of relativity, is to make yourself feel good. So use it in the positive way, because if you compare yourself to someone that has other talents and you're not as good as them in those talents, then you're just doing yourself a disservice, because you're not really, embracing yourself and lifting yourself up, you're pulling yourself down. And then the last one is the law of gender. And the law of gender is the gardening, analogy, is that you must have male and female energy to create something new. And you're a creator. So you want to recognize that. And so all, when male and female energy are combined, you can create new. And so what does that mean in terms of selling in your mind? Well, your desire for what your dream, whatever you wrote for your homework last night, that desire has to be matched up with an expectation and a belief, the faith part, it's order and faith, for conception of that manifestation of that sale, or that, that outcome from your selling that you're doing, that you're trying to accomplish. So you always have to have desire matched with belief. And that's why, if you feel stuck, sometimes, people get coaches and help, because sometimes to get that belief, figure out what that belief is and turn it around, you might need some support. But if the other thing is, if you don't believe that if you have a dream, but you don't believe you can get it, you're never going to get it, because that's as basic. It's written all over the Bibles, the Torahs, everything. That belief is what, religion is found on, and belief is what causes things to manifest. But the belief has to match your sales goal. So if you have a big sales goal and you did 1 million last year and you want to do 2 million this year, you got to realize that you're going to have to change some things. Your self-image and your identity is probably going to have to, change. And then your belief has to build. And how do you build belief? You start with gratitude, because when you gratitude, you're looking for the good and you see it. And then your gratitude for things that already happened. So you're on the receiving channel. And then you can also use affirmations. So at this point, I'm going to stop for a minute and take questions. Does anybody have any questions about what I was just talking about on the laws? Does that make sense or not? Anyone? Thoughts?
Rhonda, so go over the gender thing again.
Sure.
Obviously I'm listening, but I must have missed the piece about the importance of gender.
The importance of gender is that all creations happen from male and female, because you have opposite energy. So male energy is like when you, like in your conscious mind, I'll use the mind, right? So male energy is up in the conscious mind. So male energy makes the plans, it's like the architect comes up with the image. The female energy is the nurturing energy,
Understood.
Yeah, and so when you combine the two, so it's like plant the seed, so that the architect in the conscious mind comes up with a picture, and then it's got to get planted in the subconscious mind, and that's the nurturing, the compounding of nature, right? Like you make so many sales calls. If you make 35 sales calls every week, and you do that over time, by nature, all that stuff's going to compound, and you're going to get a big curve, but it took place because you had male energy with female energy, and that caused the creation of the compounding and the nurturing. You can
Right. The other way I was interpreting, and correct me if you're wrong, because I do want to have a better understanding of your point there, is that's like having a strong business acumen, but not having soft skills, not understanding the human side of management.
Oh, excellent.
Would you agree?
Now. I totally agree with that.
Right,
Totally
where
agree.
obviously the female gender, in many cases and in other areas of life, have proven to be more trustworthy, empathetic, understanding, kind, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Yes.
Where men in their makeup tend to be more rigid.
Right, exactly. That's
provide a short
excellent.
list.
Yeah,
Okay.
excellent
I got
analogy.
you.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's just because that's how nature works, right? Universal law, it's plant. You got to do the cultivation. Like if you put seed in for the fall on your grass, you're out there
Right.
15 minutes a day putting the water on. That's the nurturing, right? And it's got to get done so that that grass grows, and sales work the same way.
Correct. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. It's a really good point because emotional intelligence is extremely important, especially, and I think that's why today, you look at like the 21, the Great Resignation of 2021, right? A lot of that, I think, was the result that people were feeling like they were just a number and they're just disposable, and the companies don't care, and the culture, I think that was just a jolt, that was a problem. It was there and it got exasperated and popped up after with the pandemic and everything. And today, mental health and stuff is like a big thing in corporations, right? And you've got to treat people with respect. And I think that's another reason why when people, those of you that decide to become masters in selling, you're in high demand, because the companies that are the good companies, they're gonna want that person. So the more you develop your skills, you're going to be able to say, hey, I want to come work for you because your culture matches, is an environment where I'm going to be able to unfold and grow in a culture that accepts the infinite game, that can swing with the tides of the laws of rhythm and whatever. And I can contribute and grow, and you can benefit from the compounding of the sales that I make, right? And so you kind of attract what you expect. And if you understand these law things, it's like, oh, okay. And you just jump in alignment with it, your sales are going to take off. Like the thing that would frustrate me is like, sometimes you'd go into smaller startups and that somebody would come in and say, okay, we just launched a product, and so we're going to sell 5 million next month. And it's like, what? Like, because that's not how it works. You have to build the prospect bank. You have to nurture your prospects. You have to get them, to a point of making decisions. And there is no, instant, tomato plant in 2 days after you put the seed in. I mean, it just doesn't work that way. I mean, you can ramp it up, right? By understanding law and helping people through decisions faster. And you can certainly do that. I'm not saying that, everything takes a long time, but you have to have that nurturing with the idea and everything to make the stuff grow. So pretty cool. Chelsea, how are you doing? You okay? Any questions? I guess she's okay. You okay?
I'm all good.
All right.
I think my biggest challenge with where I'm at currently is that I don't understand what I'm selling. I don't know if you have any tips on that.
I do. Annette, I'm going to give you an exercise this week about ordering your sales process. So you'll be able to take that, and I'll help you do that, because if you have order in your sales presentation, you understand what you're selling, why it matters, and how the impact that it can make on the customer in a positive way. You're going to sell it like rocket cake, like because you're going to get excited about it. But if you don't have order on what you're selling, and that goes to this male and female energy thing, like sales, you might sell a widget. I think I saw you work for Millipore Sigma or something. So, some of the science stuff that they have in their catalog, but which of those products or the service of the company overall, why does it matter? And what are you really selling? Like if you're a broker for life insurance, you're really selling safety and love for your family and an instant, estate or something, should you pass, right? That's what you're selling. So you're appealing to somebody's motives of love for their family, security, financial gain and things like that. That's what you're selling. It's called a policy, but it's, what's the motivation behind it? And so what you've got to understand, like, again, to the law of gender, is you got to have order in the logic benefit, like there's a logic, you got to speak when you sell, you always want to sell consciously and emotionally. So you've got to understand consciously what you're selling, but then emotionally you have to say, why, how is that customer going to feel when they have my product in their brand new day in their promised land? And that's what you get, that's when you're persuading, you've got to go on the emotional side, not the logic, because people buy on the emotional side and they justify with logic. So you need to know how to do both. But the most powerful one is when you sell to the heart, which is the subconscious mind, on the benefits and activate their imagination. That's where you can really become more and more powerful as a persuader.
Rhonda, let me interject for a moment. I think, Chelsea, when you're talking, I don't know what you sell, but I'm just picking up bits and pieces. When you're looking to connect in any sales arena on the emotional side, I think one thing that'll help everyone get there is understanding the clients, the prospects' pain points, and just listening to them and understanding what pain points they're having, whether it's product or service, and then thinking about how you can alleviate those pain points, how you can help them by introducing your products or services to them. And that's where really understanding your business model and the products or services that you provide, really understanding, whether it's being mentored by another top salesperson or by a member of management. If somebody invested in you, which obviously they did by giving you employment, you want to go ahead and outreach to them and tell them in some way. I guess vulnerability is endearing, right? Vulnerability sometimes is very endearing. And if you show them that you need some better understanding because you do want to be a top salesperson, I think that'll help you be more emotional in that connection, that client connection. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's huge.
Thank you so much for sharing. See, this is all good because when we get in these conversations, everybody can help each other out. And the more you get involved with the conversation, the more that we can all get out of it. So thank you so much. So just to wrap up, I'm going to just finish this slide. So there's another set of laws that apply to selling, and these are called the universal laws for success. And these have to do more with your interactions with people than how the subconscious mind works that we just went through. So the first one is the law of pure potentiality. And this really has to do with the fact that there's potential for you everywhere. But when we allow ourselves to meditate, a lot of times why people say meditation is important, why on the secret content I gave you that serenity prayer from James Allen from the As a Man Thinketh, is because when we get still and when we really cut out all the noise on the outside, we hear from the divinity within all of us, the namaste that you'll hear, in yoga classes and everything. You can really get present to your soul's purpose, and you can hear a lot of divine intelligence, infinite intelligence coming back to you with ideas and thoughts for you to create potential. So if you're going to deal with other people, if you have a degree of calmness and serenity in your mind, and you have that order, you will see so much more potential and opportunity than you would if you'd never quiet your mind down. The law of giving is very similar to cause and effect in spiritual laws. And these are all in the book that was published by, Deepak Chopra. So it's called The Spiritual Laws of Success, another good book to read. But giving, just the law of giving, it talks about the law of circulation is the law of life, right? And we talked about the spiral in the beginning of this, is you always want to keep wealth, and wealth can be not just financial wealth, but all kinds of wealth of the good things in life that we all have to appreciate circulating. By giving people, what the same things you want, whether it's love, appreciation, helping people to succeed, giving, we all have these unique talents or money that you can provide, but when the giving is in circulation, that is life. Life is always, it's like, if somebody has a heart attack, they have a blockage. So why is that stopping life? Because something's constricted and it's not circulating. So the law of giving says you always want to be circulating. So when you're selling, you always want to think about, how do I keep circulating the good and moving it around and sharing with as many people as I can? So circulation is a law. And if you think about it, am I circulating? Is my funnel keeping circulation in it? Is it getting new life put in it? And, am I keeping things moving? That's important. Law of karma is similar to, it basically is just, especially with people, what you put out to others comes back. Usually negative comes back right away. Positive things take a little time and they come back in big waves. But, you kind of want to, you don't want to play into a negative, if someone is negative towards you, like let's say their attitude towards you is bad, we have this tendency sometimes to mirror things, and then it can snowball into the big trouble. So when it comes to dealing with people, we always want to think about like the law of karma, like whatever I put out or give to that person, if it's a smile or whatever, or it's a scowl, it's going to come back to me. So I want to be conscious of how I'm treating others with my actions. And the more happiness and success that I can provide to others, the more is going to come back to me. Then the law of least efforts that talks about that acceptance is a big deal. And if you can learn to start accepting things, now acceptance doesn't mean it has to stay the way it is, but when things are going on, you have to realize that the universe is a big place. And sometimes we don't always know why certain things are happening the way they are. Most of the time, everything is really always happening for us to give us a lesson or for something for us to learn. And so instead of bucking it and resisting it, which, pushes against the universe, like just accept things the way they are. And because if you start to not accept something, it's going to control you. And you don't want that. So, you want to control yourself. So the law of least effort says just practice the acceptance and ease. And then, you can always look in, I think it's Abraham Hicks that says, she says, with the satisfaction is always just another opportunity for me to create something new. So just kind of go with the flow, and remember that if you start resisting, it's going to persist, and force negates things. So just kind of when you accept, let go and let it flow, and say, how can I create something from this in a positive, that's going to be positive and going to be in alignment with my dreams. You experience a lot more happiness that way. Intention and desire. I talk about, thinking about the long term, your intentions, be clear with what you want, and get as many details as you can to get the picture clear. And when you do that, the more, if you're focused on your intention, your values, your purpose, your dharma, your reason for being there, and then what you want to create, your desire, and you bring that to clarity in your imagination, the universe is going to bring it right back to you. Detachment, great thing in sales, kind of like when people, I have had a lot of times, sales reps they'll get real involved in one deal and they get so attached to it that if it doesn't go through, they feel like, that they were so attached to it that they beat themselves up or whatever. And sometimes what you've got to do is you just got to realize that you don't want to get attached to anything. You want to touch lightly, and realize also that there's gestation periods. We don't know all these gestation periods for these sales to come in, but you never want to be forcing or pushing a situation on another person, because, you want to persuade, and if it's good for them, help persuade them to make a decision, but you never want to force or push something that's not ready. So it's like in nature, a rose, if you try to, force the rose to open, the whole petals and everything will fall apart. So you never try to, you just can't force it. You have to let it naturally unfold. And sometimes that means you're going to have to accept some uncertainty and just trust in the universe that it's always happening for you. And if you're doing good, you're putting out, you're trying to increase life and increase value for people as they go, it's going to come back to you. And the other thing it does is if you're not attached to things, you can really just be the observer and stay in the present. And that's where all your power is. Then the last one is the law of Dharma, which is your purpose. And the law of Dharma states if you use your talents and you're really serving humanity, if your goals are aligned with harmony is good for all concerned in your company, harmony is good for all concerned. That's why you want to collaborate. If you're serving humanity, you're just going to get abundance of bliss coming back to you. And you should always follow your heart and help and serve with love, because love is the essence of what every human soul on the planet has. I mean, we all have divinity within us, which is just love. So how you serve and how you help others in your unique special ways, your special sauce, and give it out, but live by your purpose, because your purpose is something that's going to fuel you way past thinking about yourself, and that's kind of how people leave legacies. And to wrap it up, as far as the marketplace goes, we're all wonderful human beings and wonderful souls, but the marketplace is going to pay for value. And so, value that you create in yourself by becoming a sales master, you're going to be in high demand if you're really good at it. So the things we use, the question is how, the law of use is basically like the parable of the talents. It's like, what are you doing with your time? What are you doing with your talents? If you don't use them, you're going to lose them. And if you do use them and think of, are constantly trading up your actions, saying, okay, well, for an investment of my time, where's my time going to be best spent? What are the things that really move the lever? And what are the things maybe I'm going to stop doing, and how can I trade up that, that my time that way? And then the sowing and the reaping is really, you can sow good, you'll get good back. You can sow bad, you can get bad back. Whatever you sow, you always reap more back, because that's how the universe works. Sometimes there's a hailstorm, so just accept it, but the marketplace is all about paying for value. So if you're creating value in you, or you're creating value with your products you're selling in the marketplace is gonna buy. So for tonight assignment, we're gonna use one of the things that masters do, self-reflection exercise. I'm gonna send these 2 PDFs when we get off the phone. So it says basically what you do is you write how it is now and how you want it to be. And this will help kind of figure out, keep you focused on some of the things that you might want to work on for mastery. So we've got, money, business, relationships, health, wellness, performance, thoughts. And then there's a declaration. One of the ways that you can create belief is you can make a declaration and an affirmation. And if you repeatedly tell yourself that belief over and over and over again, this is in Think and Grow Rich on Read Auto Suggestion, you will be able to create some new empowering beliefs where you might have one that you want to let go. So I'll stop there. And any questions?
Thank you, Rhonda.
You're welcome. All right, we will see you guys all tomorrow, and I'll send out the those 2 documents for homework, and it's an easy task, just one little thing for you to get a breakthrough from today.
Very good. Nice meeting you all.
Okay.
Nice
Nice meeting you all.
meeting you. Thanks, everyone.
You're welcome. Bye.
Bye.